Bike-sharing systems are a popular urban transportation alternative, with 55 systems in the U.S. and roughly 1,000 systems worldwide. These systems have grown significantly in the past decade, with the most popular bike shares in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Chicago.
It would be better if it works, then I would be on a bike now. But
yeah, it doesn't seem to work. Maybe we have to find another station.
It's been a rough road so far for New York City's ambitious bike share program.
We have basically imported Europe's most boring idea.
Bike sharing boils down to 3 words: ride, return, repeat. Ride any bike for 30 minutes or less, return to any station, repeat until your pass expires.
So how do these bike-sharing systems work exactly? Bike sharing is touted as a mark of a sustainable city, with these systems often used as an indicator of a modern green city. We examine New York City's bike-sharing program, Citi Bike. How has the program been successful? Who is measuring its success? How does Citi Bike contribute to the narrative? We investigate these questions, as well as the usage, safety, and politics of this initiative. In 2008, the New York Department of Transportation began researching alternative transportations attempting to reduce emissions, accidents, and congestion. They began pushing more bicycle infrastructure.
Well, good morning and welcome to City Hall Plaza. The idea behind bike share is simple. It gives people one more ways to get around town faster, and when they get around, they can use their MasterCard, another one of the sponsors today. As you know, we have the best subway system in the world and the most extensive bus network, but subways and buses don't always go where you want to go, and that can mean a long walk or a taxi ride. And now New Yorkers will have another option: hop on a Citi Bike. And that will give our city an entirely new 24/7 transportation network that will help extend connectivity from subway stops, making places like our growing number of waterfront communities easier and faster to get to. And to give us more details on the Citi Bike program, let me introduce the driving force, if you like the pun, behind it, Transportation Commissioner Jeanette Sedek-Khan. Jeanette?
And in less than 3 months, these new sleek Citi Bikes will be the new tap-and-go option to get around town. And at $95 a year, at $25 a week, or at $10 a day for unlimited 30-minute rides. Bike share, as the mayor noted, extends the reach of our subway, bus, and ferry network by providing a fast and easy connection from your door in your corner to a subway stop or a bus stop or a ferry stop. And in other cities with bike share, 50% of the trips are to or from a transit station. So we think it's going to be a natural fit with New York City. It's also a great fit for our geography. Over half of the trips in New York City are under 2 miles, and we're essentially flat. So it's a great way to get around town quickly. The stations that you see here will be solar powered and wireless, so they're easy to install and they're easy to move if necessary. And it's really important to note that New Yorkers selected these bike station sites. Since September, when we announced our partnership with Alta some 8 months ago, we've had over 250 meetings with community boards, with elected officials, with business owners, with merchant groups, and everybody so that they could kick the tires, check out the stations, learn about the system, and tell us where they wanted these stations to go. We also crowdsourced the station suggestions and had over 10,000 suggestions on our website. And I think it's important to note that as with everything that we do at New York City DOT, our priority is on safety. And our streets have gotten safer even as the number of cyclists on our streets has increased by 4-fold over the last 10 years. Yeah, it was kind of escape from New York and escape from the pack, but it was one of the most joyous days I've ever had. There must have been 100 cameras that were there. So I was with John Orcutt and Seth Solomano and Howard Wolfson, and we're all riding up First Avenue in the parking protected bike lane, and the pedestrians are on the refuge islands, and the traffic is flowing, and the select bus services is running, and it felt like there were birds singing and rainbows. It was one of the happiest days of my life.
They found that 25% of New Yorkers rode bikes at least a few times a year. Of those, 49% biked several times a month. After all, streets have untold transformative power in the city. After continued research, multiple feasibility studies, and a few setbacks, Citi Bike was launched in 2013. Today, the program boasts 706 stations and 12,000 bikes. Citi Bike is owned and operated by NYC Bike Share LLC. Its lead sponsor is Citigroup, with additional funding from MasterCard. Its operation is managed by Motivate and 8D Technologies. The bike technology comes from PBSC Urban Solutions. Continued logistics support, though zero financial support, comes from NYC DOT and the Department of City Planning. New Yorkers can become annual members or buy a short-term pass. For most people, the annual membership is $163, though different groups are offered discounts. 10% for Citi card holders and 37% for NYCHA residents. To compare, monthly subway passes for a whole year would be $1,398. Once riders have paid for their pass, they unlock a bike from a dock and go on their way. And finally, returning the bike to another station.
Do not ask me to enter the mind of the totalitarians running this government of the city. This means something much more than the specifics of this dreadful program. It means envision what happens when you get a government that is run by an autocratic mayor or other leader, and a government before which you are helpless.
Just bikes, lady. Slow down, Lady Hunger Games. Or should I say, Pulitzer Prize-winning editorial board member of the Wall Street Journal.
From its inception, Citi Bike has inspired passionate reactions, both positive and negative.
The latest controversy over Citi Bikes has to do with New Yorkers who say it's a blight on their neighborhood. CBS 2's Hazel Sanchez reports from the Upper West Side.
Put the bikes where they're not going to obstruct parking for residents.
There's fighting in the street over the virtual explosion of Citi Bike racks in Manhattan, most recently on the Upper West Side. Racks set up to hold as many as 60 bikes have taken up prime real estate on Riverside Drive, West 82nd Street, and West 76th Street, just to name a few.
This is an atrocity. There's no reason why you should have 60-plus stations when, in the last week alone, the most that I've seen of bicycles on these stations are 10.
According to the Citi Bike website, station locations are based on population and transit needs and were selected through a participatory public input process. But people living along Riverside Boulevard on the Upper West Side say they had little to no warning at all about this Citi Bike rack off 67th Street, installed in the last week.
I had no clue that they were coming.
But do you feel like you had a say on if this thing went up?
There was no say. We were just notified.
Of course, despite these problems, the system seemed to work fine for many.
But it was flawless. I loved it.
It's been acceptable for me. I haven't had any problems with bad kiosks or those sorts of things so far.
So far, the city says that more than 170,000 trips have been taken, with annual memberships surpassing 36,000.
I look at this as a big quality of life enhancer. Yeah.
A program that elicits so many emotions is also subject to so much analysis. After all, at its core, Citi Bike is a technological assemblage. The model of a bike-sharing system only works with a complex background of technology, even if it publicly presents itself as a simple sustainability initiative. The bikes and the users each have a unique code. An app lets users know where the bikes are, and data is kept on each and every individual ride. With so much data publicly available, countless studies have been done to measure, quantify, and justify every decision Citi Bike makes. Each month, an operating report is published on the Citi Bike website. Everything is quantifiable. Number of rides, annual membership, casual membership, revenue earned, inspections given, and bicycles redistributed. Even calories burned and carbon offsets earned. Citi Bike even gives itself a report card with grades out of 100 in 12 categories. Things like station cleaning and bike maintenance earned a 100%. The lowest grade only dips to an 89 when it comes to station outages, but availability of data and reports gets another clean 100%. Technological assemblage indeed. It's not only the operating reports. Citi Bike even offers specific information on time and length of rides, where riders go, and the gender and age of bike users.
Bike sharing systems are often praised for their sustainability. As we've seen, cities with bike sharing are perceived as green cities. Jeffrey Jerome Cohen might describe them as bright green cities. Bright blue bicycles are a sign that the city is creating less pollution and using fewer resources. The message Citi Bikes give is clear. Colorful bikes are a way for individuals to join the bright green revolution and help create a sustainable city. But is there more to a sustainable city? Fabio Duarte asks, is it really possible that politicians, information technology companies, and global players such as banks and advertising firms have suddenly joined the ranks of those advocating bicycle use, all for the sake of environment and better quality of life in cities? In many ways, bike-sharing systems have become just another indicator of a healthy city, without a systems-based approach. The mark of a sustainable city involves a rainbow approach. Citi Bike has been heralded as a successful program. Sadiq Khan says, the principle of bike share is based on an accessibility that cars cannot reach, ubiquity. Hundreds of bike share stations are located every couple of blocks throughout the city, either on the street or in parks, plazas, or other public spaces, all of which can be checked out and returned to any dock for a nominal fee. Virtually immune to traffic and resilient to parking problems, bike shares greatly expand a person's reach within the city.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dylan Felix. Dylan is the first full-time bike train operator. His job is technically called bike train operator, and he's the lead bike train operator for Citi Bike, working the evening shift. So I have to think that he is the first full-time bike train operator in the United States, or perhaps ever, but let's just say United States, North America, and basically he has an 8-hour-a-day job of moving bikes by giant cargo truck, which is probably one of the coolest job descriptions. So in this case, he's moving green things, so he's helping people basically achieve more mobility, environmentally friendly mobility, that sometimes they call it in the transportation community, that final mile. So Dylan is basically a full load of final mile possibilities for people. Here's carrying 8 or 12 or who knows, 15 bikes at a time. Dylan is always trying to push the limits. This is really actually pretty new equipment. It didn't really exist like 3 years ago, and we keep pushing it, and we really beat it to pieces, but we're kind of in a technology, kind of an R&D lab here.
This is one of the new economy jobs out there where it seems like you have to work at a startup, you have to work at the next Facebook, Google, Twitter, you name it. If you're just if you despise that kind of like startup go-getter lifestyle, you can still make money, you can still make a living, and you can still inspire other people to not have to fight the rat race. And I think that's beautiful. That's really important.
The fact that a city is helpless before the driven personal and ideological passions of its leader in the interests, allegedly, of the good of the city. This can take many forms, but we have seen the most dramatic exposition of this in our city. We now look at a city whose best neighborhoods are absolutely, begrimed is the word, by these blazing blue Citibank bikes, all of the finest, most picturesque parts of the city. It is shocking to walk around the city to see how much of this they have sneaked under the radar in the interests of the environment.
Citi Bike is an actant on the streets and in the city. Jane Bennett would describe an actant as never really acting alone. Its efficacy or agency always depends on the collaboration, cooperation, or interactive interference of many bodies and forces. A lot happens to the concept of agency once non-human things are figured less as social constructions and more as actors, and once humans themselves are assessed not as autonoms, but as vital materialities. Bennett also questions how an understanding of agency as a confederation of human and non-human elements alter established notions of moral responsibility and political accountability. Bennett also describes assemblages as not being governed by any central head. No one materiality or type of material has sufficient competence to determine consistently the trajectory or impact of the group. The effects generated by an assemblage are, rather, emergent properties, emergent in that their ability to make something happen is distinct from the sum of the vital force of each materiality considered alone. Each member and proto-member of the assemblage has a certain vital force, but there is also an effective proper to the grouping as such, an agency of the assemblage. And precisely because each member actant maintains an energetic pulse slightly off from that of the assemblage. An assemblage is never a solid block but an open-ended collective, a non-totalized sum.